Well, good morning, everyone. I am Ron Mosby, the City Administrator for the City of North College Hill. Today, we are having our scheduled Unified Progress Committee meeting. The committee is made up of 7 attendees. And so for record's sake, I will take attendance. Just a moment. And I will begin, Mr. Blaylock.
Here.
Ms. Nichols, Mrs. Nichols. Mayor Nichols.
I'm sorry, here.
Okay. Let's see. Mrs. O'Rourke.
Here.
Ms. Boss.
Here.
Ms. Underwood.
Present.
Mr. Milanovac.
Here.
And myself here. Okay. At the last meeting, we discussed, well, we had minutes. I'm hoping that everybody did get the minutes that were recorded. Basically, at this time, is there anyone that saw any or had any changes that they wanted to make to the minutes or something that they felt needed to be added? Okay. If there were not, would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Move we approve the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
One, two, all right, so it was moved by Mr. Blaylock, seconded by Ms. Underwood to adopt the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and as we had discussed previously, and when I say previously, excuse me, I mean just before the meeting started, we do not have a written agenda. So since we do not at this point, I would certainly entertain input from any of the members, either to follow up with items that were on the previous meeting, or if there were new suggestions or ideas that we need to develop.
Mayor Nichols and I have been working on the opening the track for the community. We actually came up with kind of, I guess, kind of rules, regulations, procedures and whatnot. We're running into some issues just as far as the opening, it is fine. The hours that Mayor Nichols, correct me if I'm wrong, we were thinking we would go from 5:30 to 7:30 during in the morning, and then we would go from 6:30 to 8:30 in the evening. The 5:30 to 7:30 we do not have a problem with because we have staffing that's available to open and close. The problem and the glitch that we have, and we're kind of working through that, is how do we close it up at 8:30? We don't want to leave it open, and we also want to make sure that individuals that are there have use to the facilities, meaning the public restrooms and whatnot. So we really need to work on trying to figure out how can we have someone close it up and lock it up at the end of the evening. So
Okay.
we're working on that.
And just for clarification, did you say 6 or 6:30 to 8:30? Which
6:30 to 8:30.
okay.
And that's Monday through Friday, right? Excuse me.
So and it would not be open, Mr. Blaylock, I'm assuming it would not be open during the regular school hours because it would be used by the students and there's too great a risk of liability if we had the public coming in to, I mean, that's my assumption, but.
No, you're right. That's correct. So during the time that the students are in session, we will not have it open. And also at the end of the day, we have track. So we have a number of students who participate and practice on the field. So we would definitely have it closed to the public during those hours.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Mhm.
And I don't know, the two thoughts that come to my mind, and I think the first doesn't work as far as closing it up, is Public Works. But what about the police department? I know that's not within their normal purview to do that, but there certainly would be somebody on staff at that time if they could do the lockup. But I don't know if that's crossing too many barriers or boundaries or something.
Yeah, Pat, I don't think it's that as much. You know, we on second shift, we don't have the same number of police officers on. And I can't remember, we did have a discussion about this, but the concern that we had from our standpoint is that if they're called out on an emergency, and they are not able to go and close it up, then it would almost be like it would be on us, you know, or the police department to close it up. And that was a concern that we had.
Mhm. What about that person that's been hired part-time to work on litter? Can they have a role of just being there at 8:30, coming back and locking it up? Again, I don't know, but.
Yep. We did ask it. Well, we had broached that topic as well. If we were going to do that, you know, that, like you just pointed out, that person would have to come back later. And again, I'm not 100% certain on that. That person is usually coming in, you know, their focus has been on picking up the trash, but if, you know, that could be a possibility. So I won't say no to that at all, but we'll just have to work through it to make sure that we would be able to meet that, because that would be coming in 5 days a week, where right now that person is only coming in 3.
And one of the concerns as far as the school, just to be clear, that we're actually right now, because of COVID, we've actually changed our custodian hours. So in the past, we've had custodians to work the night shift. Now the latest our custodian works, our evening custodian, who's basically working part-time, they leave at 8 o'clock now. So some conversation that I'm having is possibly extending that, but still, like, I'm still kind of dealing with that situation, trying to work through that. And then the other situation is in the summer, all custodians shift to day shift. So they move to the day shift so they can do deep cleaning of the buildings and things of that nature. We don't have evening activities. Therefore, at 2:30, then all custodians leave. So even if we were able to get past this even if the school was able to put something in this next 6 weeks, we'll say 6 to 7 weeks, we then would find ourselves in another quandary to try to figure out, okay, what are we going to do to extend it? I don't want to have to, I want it to be something that once we started, it's there. I don't want to have to keep going back and forth and going back to community and saying, oh, sorry, we can't do it because of that. So we're going to work real hard and try to figure out a plan of action moving forward.
I was thinking that if you just start with morning hours, that might be a great way to start too, if that seems like something that definitely works. Obviously in the winter, that might not be a good thing, but right now, and then if you going into the summer, if you could extend that a little bit, since you don't, well, we'll have summer school. Never mind. Maybe if you just went, if you just said community right now, we can open the track from 5:30 to 7:30, see if there's interest. I mean, that might be a good way to start something. So see how it works with the community using the track, and, you know, just kind of a trial run basis. So
I like that idea.
Also, what maybe we can do is have like a group of volunteers, like, you know, because I would imagine the person or people who would you would trust to lock the facility would have to be trustworthy. So maybe have a group of people who agree to kind of take on that role on a rotating basis. That way it's not a imposition on any one person. And once the one person locks the facility for the one day, then they would drop the keys off to the next person to take care of it the next day. So that would just kind of, I mean, it's just a thought. I don't know how well that would work or who those individuals would be, but it's just a suggestion.
We actually, Mayor Nichols and I, we did discuss that at one point. The volunteers would be us. And we said
Yeah.
it would be too much of a burden to try to put on ourselves. So we did kind of talk about it. I think the problem with that is just, whenever you have volunteers, it's just kind of hit and miss sometimes. So that's the only thing. But I like the idea of looking for individuals who will be committed to doing it and maybe having 2 people that could be available. The major concern that I have is it has to be somebody that we can definitely trust to get in there and lock things up. Although they can jump the fence and get over there, just the liability of leaving it open all evening scares me.
If we did volunteers, you could have a lockbox there, so you wouldn't have to, the issue of transferring the key. And maybe we look at some other organizations in the community, like the Business Association, or I was thinking the Historical Society, because you got some really trustworthy people there that I think would be real reliable too. But yeah, I think you inherently have that problem when it's a volunteer. I mean, I certainly would sign up for one day a week, but yeah, never mind. Okay.
That's what I said.
And another thing that we talked about, me and Mr. Blaylock, was the person who closes have to be able to say and be firm and strong, get out. Because you'll have those people who don't want to leave, who, test your whatever. And so that person will have to be sort of forceful, I believe.
Or just stern.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe
So Eugene, does that, because I was listening to Helen's suggestion, that sounded feasible to me. I thought, if we just start with the AM, that would be a great start. I know that there are some people who would absolutely be interested in using the track in the morning, for sure.
I'm a nighttime, so
I'm on it. I actually, I'll work on that Monday.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that one. That's for sure. I don't know if anyone has anything immediately, but I will just remind everyone that the cleanup day is going to be on Saturday, the 24th. So it's 2 weeks from today. Hence, we're not having this meeting. So we won't have our next meeting until the second Saturday in May. I don't have the date in front of me. I apologize.
May 9th. No, May
Okay.
8th.
May 8th. Okay. So that will be the next time that we meet. But I do want to thank the North College Hill Chamber because they will be providing the shirts for the cleanup for this, for the one this coming or in April, excuse me. So we'll begin at 9 a.m. Mickey over at Perkins has offered to donate some little muffins in the morning, and Kremers will have some pizza in the afternoon. You'll take a ticket basically after we're finished, and then you can go over and pick it up. But just as a way of saying thank you for your participation. But I would hope that particularly the members here in this committee would be out and be a part of that. I think it would be a real good show as far as leadership and unity, for our city. So again, that will begin at 9:00 a.m. We do have bags, we have gloves, and we will also have as Marty calls them, and I call them that too, the critter getters. So you can use those to pick up some of the trash and things that you see along the street.
if I may, one of the things that I wanted to do after as a kickoff following the cleanup was to introduce the pots that we talked about. So I have talked to Mr. Mosby and they're going to get 2. We can start at the city center. If 2 looks a little gaudy at the corner or whatever, maybe we can place another one somewhere else. But I sort of want to kick it off and start it that way, and then to introduce, if you want to adopt a pot, take a look at this one. So we're planning to get 2. I'm gonna have to reach back into a green thumb that I possibly don't have or haven't had in some years to get it planted and find the right flowers. So I just wanted to say that because I sort of thought clean up, new look. So to get at least the city center area looking presentable, and then we can advertise it that way for who wants a pot, but you have to take care of your pot.
It looks like Pat had a question.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because the chamber is very excited about this and we'd be very supportive. And do you know what size they're going to be? And what I'm thinking is we had talked about it last month and it wasn't real firmed up, but if it's something where the business has to pay for it, because what I'm thinking is, and I think the chamber, we kind of touched on it, but without knowing the specifics, but the chamber would be happy, I think, to, if not buy them outright or, make the donation for each business, at least contribute to each business doing it that can't afford it, and get their commitment to, care for the flowers, but to incentivize them. So whatever the dollar is, maybe we kick in half or. So I think we're real excited about this. So that's what I was curious about cost.
I know that, well, I'll let the mayor describe that.
I did see some, and I'm horrible with measurements. So I'm visual. So, and I can only describe it the way that I would see it. When you go to certain neighborhoods and you see the real big ones. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was envisioning. Something, the rounder ones, a little fuller. I did see some at the home store, but they were plastic, and the store that's closing out in Tri-County. We really don't want to do the plastic. I would have done the plastic just as a show, just as, to get the idea out there. So what would you say? It was probably about 3 or 4 feet tall.
Yeah, I was going to say, it needs to be at least 48 inches high. And the thing is, the other part that we didn't firm up is, Pat, that you brought up, who was going to provide the dirt, because it is going to have to be heavy duty.
Considerable amount.
Correct. Yeah. So it has to be a heavy duty container, and then the dirt has to be put into it so that we can have the plants. This is not, just to be clear, and I'm not trying to state the obvious, but this is not going to be the little planters that we had, several years ago. Mm-hmm. That were hanging. These we want to have on the ground.
I was under the impression that the city purchased the pot and the business owner or citizen, whomever, would take care of the pot, meaning they would purchase the supplies for it. That was the impression that I was under.
Well, that's going to be a pretty big pot if it's 4 feet tall.
Right.
And it's going to be.
You're right.
That's going to limit where it can go at that size. Because it is going to be so big, and the filling up of the dirt. We could do it. That's not no problem. But I think that's also going to be a pretty costly pot.
Well,
so I think you're going to need us maybe to kick in.
Well, you mentioned that it was going to be pretty big, and you're right. If you think about it, if we have only a 2 foot high pot, that's fairly small and not as visible. I know that Helen brought some beautiful mums that brought them over to the city center. We have them located out in the front under the marquee, but the mums are, Helen, what were those like? Are those 12 inches high?
I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, they're not. And my point though is, yeah, my point is that they're, you can see them, but they're not as prominent just because of their height. So we need something that's going to be big enough. Now, perhaps, and maybe this is where, clearly input from this group would help, but, if you all think that 36 inches, would be prominent enough. But we're going to.
Can I share my screen? I just pulled up something on at Home Depot, just kind of.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, Keith, would
I've
you
got-
allow Mr. Blaylock to
Yes.
screen share? Thank you.
I think it's the roundness of it is really, at 36 inches looks good. I mean, I'm 5'6" and 48 inches would be like way high.
I'm looking at these, you kind of look at it, and I don't know that, like it's this one on the end, I guess it's a 24 inch square, 89. Do you all see that one?
Yeah.
Mhm.
These here get a little expensive, but the Metro one doesn't look bad. That's Southern. So just kind of get an idea. I just wanted to.
And some of that resin or the heavy duty stuff is really durable. Because if we're getting
Yeah.
really big ones, you're not going to be picking them up at the end of the season. I don't think it's storing them. So we do want something that's going to be durable.
We want something that's going to be durable because the other part of that too, let's remember, if it's going to be outside, it's going to be subject to the elements. So
Right.
some of that is going to wear away as well.
And we want to decorate it for winter then.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So just sharing.
Yeah.
So
Are
we're
there-
thinking like a 36.
30, I don't see anything that large. Everything was like 20.
Since your
There's a
screen is up,
36,
can you
but you can
Google?
see it, the white one right there. No, the up next to it, that one, that's a 36.
That's the
but
36.
yeah, I mean, that, but if you notice, it's
That's
like a trestle.
that's counting the whole thing though.
Trellis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I mean, that would be
36
good
inches
if
is
you,
pretty high.
if you had like a vine type of a plant. Excuse me.
Mr. Blaylock, can you Google or put in their search engine of something 25 and up?
You're right.
And I think the width though is really a big consideration because that's what kind of gives it prominence as well. So if you
Yeah.
went with like a 25 inch or a 30 inch, but it was pretty round. Or if it's one of those little pedestal ones, that kind of shows up a little bit too.
So as I'm thinking about this, Pat, maybe what we could do is this, and if this pleases Tracy, but perhaps what we could do is the city could purchase the pot. Would the chamber consider purchasing the dirt, and then the business or whoever could then, put the plant in?
Sure, I think we could do that, but I think the dirt's going to be cheaper than the pot, isn't it?
Yes.
So I think the chamber ought to purchase the pot, have the city come around with the city truck and fill up the pots, and then
Okay.
the business can plant them. I think that might be a more feasible and less expensive to the city, but something that I think the chamber would be willing to invest in. I don't know. What do you think?
Tracy, does that
Eugene?
work for you?
I
It
agree with
does.
what you just said, Pat.
I'm sorry, Mr. Blaylock, were you saying something?
I said, I agree with what Ms. Pat said, as far as if we did the pots and went in and every business had a pot in front of it who were involved, and then the city people just came around and filled it up with dirt and went from there. I think that would be cheaper on the city side than purchasing the pots. Because I'm thinking to get a nice one, you're probably gonna pay about
It looks like they're gonna pay over $100 for a pot,
that's what
for
I'm thinking.
for a durable one, yeah.
But the other thing is, I probably the city has it too, but with Lowe's, I've got that Lowe's for Pros, so I get a 5% off. But I also have a liaison at Lowe's, which gives me greater discounts on things depending when I'm buying it. So we might be able to go through something like that to even get a better discount and a better price than what we're seeing. It's not going to be a huge diff, but it could be 10% off. And with the number that we want, that could make a diff.
So Pat, I know obviously you can't speak on behalf of the chamber. I mean, they have to vote on it, but from this group, can we perhaps get a vote? Does that, does this committee feel like that is a recommendation that they can make? In essence, the recommendation would be that chamber would purchase the pots, and then the city would fill the pots with the dirt, and then of course the businesses would provide the plants and then maintain them.
Now the chamber, so we will have to go back to the chamber because we don't know if we're gonna, the chamber would move money or put some money towards the pot, I think, just depending on what the cost of the pot is, Pat. I think.
Yeah, I think once we determine what it is, because what we could do is ask each business who wants a pot to maybe ante in something, depending upon the cost, and then the chamber could pick up the balance or something like that. But I think there's some leeway here. I think the chamber's really on board with doing something to beautify, and I think that we could get something going. So I think we'd have to figure out what pot we like, make sure the city likes the pot, we like the pot, it looks durable, it's reasonable, blah, 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 and go that way. The other thing about the dirt, I was thinking, we've got that florist now in the city. I can't remember.
Osterbrock.
Right. I
Yes.
wonder if they can get us a good deal on dirt and or on the flowers. And if not, just down the street on off of Gray Road, we have those florist, Ron's gardening place and all that. So we might be able to work out a nice little deal there for the price of the soil and or the flowers.
Well, personally, I definitely like the idea of including Osterbrock.
Mhm.
As you mentioned, we do have them. I will tell you just from our personal experience, they've done a really good job for us.
Also, they might be the ones I think to start with as far as the flower pots.
That's a good idea.
We're local. They may be able to. They have some suppliers. They may be able to get us a nice, durable flower pot, and we could feed.
It's a really good idea.
Their organization, their business. So I would love to just start local and then go from there.
Very good.
Mhm.
Great idea.
They could probably give good recommendations on plants for us as well. Even
True.
if they don't supply them, like, kind of like a fact sheet for the business. If you're in the sun, this is good to plant. If you're in the shade, this is good, kind of, so we're giving every pot a successful chance. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's a great
business.
idea.
So
Count.
are we in agreement with that then? And then we just need to determine who's going to go approach them to talk to them about it.
I definitely think that's a good route to go.
Mhm.
Erica, Matt, are you in agreement?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Man, I don't know.
I think it sounds great.
Okay. I'll change.
And then just as
So
a
who needs,
backup,
we just need to have somebody who will approach them to talk to them about it.
Mayor Nichols says I'm sorry.
Mr. Blaylock spoke for me. I was going to say I'm right across the street from them, so I don't have a problem going over and talking to them. But I think he should probably meet me there as well. There is a website
You all
though,
are
if that
too
doesn't
funny.
work out, it's called ornamentalstone.com and ornamentalstone.com. And they have the concrete street planters. So if that doesn't work out, I'm on their site now, and maybe like their the 24.
How much
No,
is it?
This one is 183. So the prices for a 36 by 26 is 308. That's high. A 30 by 25 is 247. A 24 by 14 is 102. 24 by 24 is 183.
Yeah, and I mean, just to give you a comparison, everybody here, we're finalizing the trash cans that we want to get out for the community. And I know that those, for the durable trash cans, which are about 36 inches high, those are about $300, and they can go up as high as $600 or $700. So
I think a 30, I think we might want to look at the 24. The 36 seems high to me for a pot.
I mean, again, I don't know, Eugene, because I'm just thinking if it's sitting in front of a person's building, because that's basically where they would be. Obviously, they would be outside. I mean, you may be right. I guess I would be, in this case, I would be like Tracy. I would need to visualize it to see it. And you know, you're right. I mean, that could make a difference. But since we've already agreed that we'll talk with Osterbrock, maybe we'll get a recommendation from them that, you know, will help. And I think that would be a good way to bring them in as well. So.
Yeah, and I think we can do a little research too on durability and what kind of product to get. The other thing that goes through my mind real quick is I do like the huge ones, but I think they may be cost prohibitive and what have you. But having smaller but good sized ones and just having more of them might be a real treat too. And I was wondering, depending upon well, never mind. We'll just see what we get.
Okay.
Okay. If I could weigh in, I think maybe we consider bigger and more prominent areas. I mean, there's nothing wrong with visually varying size. So maybe there's bigger ones, let's say, if we were going to put some on the corner of Hamilton and Galbraith, as opposed to further down the Galbraith strip, and just think about intersections, maybe having some bigger ones and then maybe the smaller ones in front of just businesses along the strip.
Yeah. That's good.
Because that might save on cost, right? You know, I mean, like the big ones that are more expensive require more dirt, let's say in Hamilton and Galbraith, and then everywhere else you have smaller ones. Because it sounds like if there's really a lot of interest coming from the Chamber of Commerce, then we might have a pretty good amount, and just the volume of them should be striking enough.
That's true. It's a good point. I mean, you know, just as you were mentioning that, I do see where I think that a 24-inch would be sufficient. And I'm just using this particular business as an example, but you know, if we look at the credit union, right, their corner and their entrance, you know, a 2-foot planter there would be very prominent to your point. I don't know if it would be as prominent on the other side of the street where the cemetery is. That one, you know, I think that might need something different, but if we were going to put one there, but I could definitely see where a 2-foot high with a building like that would make sense.
This ornamental stone that the mayor brought up, I just went to it, and the first thing on their picture is a thing of Starbucks, but it shows the same type of planter, but it has several different sizes of it.
Yeah.
So that same thing that Matt was talking about would be kind of, there is that consistency, but the variation in size is nice.
Well, maybe that's what can be brought up to Osterbrock too when we meet with them, see what they recommend. All right, I did want to give everyone an update very quickly. I know we had talked about Dudley Park. I'll just refresh everyone's memory though. Dudley Park right now is a park that we did some work to it. It was a major investment. We took out the batting cage, we put in inclusive playground equipment, but we still have several things that we want to do. The biggest of those would be to put a splash park in there. And so this past week, council gave us the approval to move ahead with the demolition of the baseball building. So that ought to be coming, that we're looking to have that done within the next 30 days. In which case, of course, that building will not be there. And I will be talking with our city engineer, which is JMA, but we will use them to kind of lay out what that, you know, a design for the park and what it would look like. The other thing that we will do is, I think I had mentioned that we have grant money that has been awarded. However, we won't see that money until 2023. But in the meantime, what we will do is use the money that we've been guaranteed to receive matching grants. So we're going to be going out to different funders to see if we can obtain matching grants, so that we will be able to get the funding that we need in order to you know, make the park a reality. I think it's a great opportunity. I really do. And I think that if we take care of it, this could be huge for our city. I really think so.
Using that space there for A splash park, will you still keep the regular little playground, or will that whole space be dedicated?
No, it's not gonna, no, not the whole space. You know, if I could, I guess the way you might think of it might be like, the only one that I can think of immediately, and maybe somebody has a better example, but the one that comes immediately to mind to me is Winton Woods. Over at Parky's
Sure.
Ark, basically but it's not the Ark. There's a splash park that's just on the other side of that. It would look something like that. We would also put in new playground equipment to replace the older playground equipment that we have right now, because that equipment is damaged. It is, you know, potentially it could be harmful to some of the kids. Some of the pieces well, I guess it's more like urethane, but basically as it's kind of coming apart, you know, kid could scratch themselves on it or something. So we're planning on getting new equipment for that as well.
I was just wondering about the parking, because there's not a lot of space there for a playground, a splash park, and for.
Well, some of the parking will be removed, of course, with that. You are correct about that. There were basketball courts there several years ago, which are no longer there. Some of that could be used for parking itself as well. There is parking along Goodman, but again, you're right. Goodman is a fairly narrow street, so we don't necessarily want to put a lot of parking, you know, on Goodman. I mean, but that would be, you know, that would be one option. And then of course there's the option on, what is that, Sundale on the other side? And not
I can't remember what the name.
Say that again. DeArmond, that's right. Thank you very much. I knew it wasn't Sundale. DeArmond on the other side of the street, there's parking there though as well. So I mean, it could, you know, we could see it on both sides. Goodman being two-way, but
it's a neighborhood too, where when we have a small city, so our residents, a lot of them are going to walk, quite frankly, especially the kids in the Southwest District, right? So, you know, obviously we will get some out of towners, I think, but you know, predominantly, I think it's going to be used mostly by kids in the neighborhood. That's the ultimate goal, right? And they can walk there.
Also, one other announcement, since we are doing that, we have we had put out, some of you may have already seen it. We had put out, there is a position opening. It is for an accounts receivable specialist. However, part of that role is for someone to be able to write grants. So that's a portion of it. It's a part-time position. But I did want to make sure that if you all knew of anyone that might be interested, that you could have them send their resumes to Ari Hall, who is our finance director, or you can send them to me and I'll forward them to Ari. But I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that.
Has there been any, oh, that's okay. You answered it. I'm sorry.
Actually, Ron and Tracy, I would like to say, I noticed the signs a few weeks ago, I think, the blue signs that talk about litter. And it was very noticeable. I made my son actually stop the car and drive around the block, because when I saw the sign, I was like, what does that sign say? That's new. So I think that they're very, I really like the signs. They look really nice. I meant to say it at the council meeting, but I just probably got sidetracked by some other nonsense. But I did want to tell you all that the signs are very noticeable and I think they're beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Although I have not seen one.
There's
Like on the
one.
street.
Yeah, there's
I
one.
know I've
right
driven
before
past it.
Yeah, there's one right before Walgreens. That's the first one I saw.
Yeah, and then there's also one on the corner of Trojan Way and
Trojan
Galvin
Way.
in front of the public safety building.
Isn't there one over on Simpson too? I thought I saw one over there, but maybe not.
There is
Um,
one
I know
on
I've seen
Simpson.
it.
yeah, because
Yeah.
we did purchase several of them and we wanted to put them on the kind of the more major throughways. So yes.
I had a question, if we could talk about litter for a second, or just the idea I had when I was walking around the neighborhood this week. You know, the circulars that are delivered, I think every Sunday. I just wondered if that was anything that a city had control over, I picked up a lot of them that were very old, very wet. I'm sure you've talked about this before, but as a resident, I just don't know if there's any control over receiving those, either for residents to opt out or for a whole community to say, our residents are getting their information a different way and don't need those. So I just wanted to ask that question.
Well, there's a bit, it's a bit tricky. When the solicitors, when they throw those out, right, they're throwing them out onto private property. So it's not like they're in the public per se, the public right of way. So we can't necessarily stop that unless you're right. Council just had some law that said, that it's now illegal to, place those on someone's private property. But I do know what you are saying, and you're right, that they do become an eyesore if a person doesn't pick them up, or if in a, I'm not trying to point out anyone's personally, but just if in an apartment complex you see a bunch of them and then they are somewhat littered about, it is, I know that can be very frustrating. But no, we don't, right now, I don't believe we have a law that opposes that. I will double check with, in fact, I'll write that down. I'll double check with our buildings and inspections officer about that.
I mean, I don't know. Some people might find them helpful. I know for me, they're just right in the recycling or the garbage. So I just was thinking about ways to reduce the amount of stuff that's coming in. I mean, I'm happy that now we have recycling bins. And so we're able to recycle more in our community. But I just wanted to ask that question. So, see what people.
No, that's fine. I was going to, actually, I'm really glad that you said that. I wanted to segue. Just out of curiosity, did everybody who lives in the community, did you all receive your green containers?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because that was one of the things, and we did receive several calls from people who initially were concerned about whether or not their trash bill was going to increase. And I told them no, because we had worked this out so that was included in your monthly bill. So whether they use it or not, and I did have one pleasant exchange with a resident who said, well, I don't recycle. And we said, okay. I said, okay, but you're not paying any more for it. I said, you take it, you put it out. And she concluded by saying, well, I guess I'll start recycling it. That is huge for us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to, I would hope that, Helen, I appreciate your words. And, I would hope that each of you would also think about the fact that when you're sharing that with your neighbors, we get a rebate. I don't know if you all are aware of this, but Hamilton County Waste and Recycling gives an incentive rebate to all communities who recycle. And so the more that because, they do keep, they keep records of how much we recycle. What our recycling on a weekly basis is weighed. And then it is, and then that is accumulated. And at the end of, and I don't remember the exact date, but basically at the end of the year, what happens is they weigh it, and then that we're given an incentive rebate based on our percentage of recycling. So the higher that our percentage is, the greater our rebate.
I'm the kind of person who likes tracking things and numbers. And can you show that anywhere? Like show our community, this is where we started,
Yes.
Quarterly, like now, because we've got these new bins, this is how much we recycled and this is how much money is coming in. Maybe that would incentivize or maybe motivate.
Yep, I'm writing it down, Helen. So I'll publicize the recycling results.
That might be a handy thing to have available. I don't know, we don't want a flyer, but a little handy thing to mention at the litter pickup. So when you're given a send off and saying a few words, touching on that might be kind of cool.
Okay.
You're talking about the green rolling cans, right?
Yes, sir.
The funny thing is it's been free for a long time. My wife and I have had ours for years. We just requested it. They gave it to us for free.
I was about to say, Matt, I've had one since I've lived here as well.
We had the red bins for a long time. And so we just got the rolling bin, which is the larger one, the 65 gallon. But I do see, as I'm driving around, I see more that are putting them out. There is one thing that I have to talk to some people about. This was brought to my attention recently on, I believe it was on Richard and Marvin, and I'm not sure why. But apparently Rumpke has been, instead of putting the cans back onto the tree lawn, they're putting them on the street. I don't know why, but I will definitely talk to Rumpke about that to make sure that they don't do that. To me, it baffles me. I don't know why they would do that.
It depends on your driver.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I've experienced that the last couple of weeks.
On Carroll?
On Carroll, yes.
Mhm.
Wow.
It depends,
Okay.
it
Thank
depends
you.
on the
I
driver.
didn't know that.
I've had them put it up against the curb. I've had them put it in my driveway. I've seen them kick over other people's cans. I guess they were a little discouraged. I've seen a lot of different things. Right now, the guy just leaves it at the skirt at the end of my driveway. So someone has to get out and move the can so we can get in the driveway.
Right.
Mhm.
All right. I'll make sure to talk to them.
Now, I wanted to touch on what Helen was saying with the flyers. What I noticed in my neighborhood is they just hit the main streets. They don't come down my street anymore. So they might do Clovernall, South Ridge. No, Clovernall, North Ridge. They just do a circle.
Yeah, we don't get them either over on Carroll.
Mm-hmm. We
We
used to
get
get them
'em
all
on-
the time.
We get him on Carpenter. He's a very nice guy. Comes out on Sunday morning. I thought he was
Yeah.
very industrious, gets him closer and closer all the time to the stoop. I take it in, I recycle it.
No, speaking of that, and this is not I don't know that, well, it is definitely an issue, but, I don't know about you all. We clearly don't get, there's no more Hilltop Press, which I think is sad because that is that's a real part of our community. And I know we don't have anybody to deliver that. The other part I just found out not too long ago, I don't know what took me so long not to recognize this, but our UDF used to sell on a weekly basis the Cincinnati Herald. Now I know that Walgreens does. I do know that they have it, but UDF doesn't have it anymore. So I know that these weekly periodicals I know for people are very important. So and I'm not sure again, what the answer is to that. Only that we would have to get more people that would be youngsters that might be willing to deliver. So.
So are you saying they still do the Hilltop Press? I just assumed they weren't doing it anymore.
Well, no, I mean, I know other communities they get those weekly newspapers.
Huh.
I haven't seen a Hilltop, but I mean, like the Forest Hills Journal and what's the other one? The Pulse Journal. I guess that's like up in that's really more up in like Warren County, but other neighborhoods do get them on a weekly basis.
Yeah, there are some.
Yeah, Ron, you actually have to pay them to bring it to you. And because I was paying for it for a while, the problem became I just didn't have time to read all of the papers that were getting dropped off. So, but you can pay for it.
So, Erica, if I understand you correctly, like let's say I said I wanted to start it, I could call them and then they wouldn't deliver like they used to deliver to basically every house. And then
Right,
somebody would
no.
come around and collect. So basically it almost sounds like what you're saying is if I wanted to purchase it or subscribe to it, that they would basically only drop one copy off at my house and that would be it.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. I wasn't aware of that one.
Just to butt in real quick here, because I know we're getting close to time, but I didn't know if there was any interest still in talking about a block party this year or if that would be something we just look to the future. But I did talk to Tim Dunn, who's the lead minister at Life Spring Church, and they would be willing to provide some activities. He had mentioned that they were actually now budgeting some of their gift giving to applying to local projects in North College Hill. So they do have a small budget for that, and I think they've recently invested in some activity things. So he had expressed an interest of providing some activities and the manpower for kids if we were to do a block party on Galbraith sometime this, I guess we were talking about roughly September. But if we're thinking about doing it this year, obviously we'll have to start kind of coming up with some ideas on that pretty quick.
Maybe since like you said, the time is getting away from us, let's talk about it at our next, kind of make that agenda item. I think we have 3 agenda items, follow up on the track, follow up on the plants, and then discuss the possibility of a block party. I think one of the things with that is whatever information we receive from the CDC and Hamilton County Health, we're kind of getting mixed messages that things are getting better. And then on my call yesterday with Greg Kesterman, he just said that they are seeing some upticks, I'm sorry, in certain communities. And they're reminding everybody that COVID has not gone, and we need to continue to stay vigilant, mask up, social distance, small groups. It's interesting, it says small groups, but then
Come on, let's go outside. Let's go outside.
Open everything up, right? Outside, just go for it. So,
hey James, do you have your ID? I got a little bit of wine for cooking. Can you show it to her?
So just to be thinking about it.
You know, Eugene, to your point, I don't know if I don't know if you all have been paying attention to the stats, but I have been watching those, and statewide, we're not talking about Hamilton County. We're certainly not talking about North College Hill, but statewide, we're still averaging around 2,000 cases a day. And then there was one day here last week, it was, I believe, Wednesday or Thursday, we had 86 deaths. So you are correct. I mean, I do think that we have to be careful. One thing that we have talked about though, and that is perhaps doing like a drive-in movie. I haven't talked to, we were trying to figure out where we would do it. And I don't know, Matt, if LifeSpring would be interested in helping with that. Maybe we could do a drive-in movie. There's a company that does basically it's like a pop-up movie theater. I don't know if you all have seen it. We did it a couple of years ago at Veterans Park, and it's basically an inflatable movie screen, and then they show the movie, on the back of that. But that might be one way for us to, be able to encourage some people to get out and be able to look at that. And I was thinking about it, Matt, because LifeSpring, quite frankly, that would be a pretty good venue, because they have they have those natural, they have the shrubs in the back, which would provide, a little opacity for the for the pop-up movie theater itself. So you wouldn't have it would be low opacity, so you wouldn't have a lot of light coming through, is what I was trying to say.
They have something like that up in College Hill. They started last summer, I believe.
Yeah, and behind Hollywood, the old Hollywood Theater, right?
Yes, behind.
Yeah.
I rode up one night just to see how many people were there, and it was a pretty nice crowd.
Yeah, so maybe we could do something similar. And if Tim would be interested in that, Matt, we could, and DAV wants to help too. So if they'd be interested, that is something that we might be able to put together for the summer.
And that might be 2 projects. You're looking at a block party, add that on the agenda, and let's bring it.
Yeah, I have that, but I
think both of those, because I like the idea of doing something to the community. It's just about being responsible.
Yeah.
Even if the governor is telling us one thing, if we do something in this small community and we have an outbreak, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with any of that, but I think what we do is we talk about it, and everybody we talk about it with, we put the footnote in that it might not happen this year, but whatever planning we think of and ideas we get in line are things that could be implemented next year, and then we're far ahead of the game, you know?
If we were talking about a drive-in, which, it sounds safer, you've got Rose's parking lot.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, that would be one. And you've got some space over at Krogo, but I think there's not enough room there probably, but Rose's.
Yeah,
after
and we could
hours,
do
that might be
Roses
pretty
where we
cool.
did the trunk or treat. That you are correct about that. We just need to get permission from them. I just kind of like the idea of the church
Mhm.
because, like I said, they've got the way that they're set up and with the bushes around it. It allow because you don't have that same kind of barrier. And the other thing is, quite frankly, where that corner is that I'm thinking about, you're literally on Goodman and Galbraith, and so you got the noise from the street coming in, which might make it a little more difficult to hear. You wouldn't have that necessarily in that parking lot over at LifeSpring. So it's just a thought.
Mhm.
Yeah, they have a pretty big parking lot too. If I could talk to Tim,
Okay.
I'm willing to wager he'd be interested. I mean, they've got the space and they're always looking for ways to, bring people there. That's just part of what churches do. They want to do outreach. So
Yeah.
I'll talk to him and I'm sure
Okay.
he'd be interested.
All right. I know it's about 10:30. We do need to wrap up. But I appreciated what Eugene said. We obviously talked about a lot. I'll have to put these minutes together. But bottom line for May, remember, we're not having a meeting on the 24th. So our next meeting will be Saturday, May the 8th. And I'll have the track on the agenda, the plants and the planters, a proposed block party, and then a proposed pop-up drive-in. We all in agreement with that?
Yes.
Yes,
good.
Ron.
Yes.
Okay. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for your input. I really feel energized after speaking with all of you, and really appreciate the passion that you all have for the city. So we will get together in a few weeks.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
You're-
everyone.
Good day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.